So when we talk about structural integrity of a tree that literally bulbasaurs and can't twist in order to make it proper, you would have to pull it. Um, yeah,
Ask Warren when he eats meat and spaghetti.
yeah,
Put a little bit of pasta sauce aside for you before.
that's fucking beautiful. Because
I keep telling these guys they have to provide a dinner for you.
yeah, no, that's cool. I appreciate it like
It's
crazy.
really easy. You just
Yeah.
leave the meat out till last, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you put yours aside and mix it all together.
Yeah.
Simple. French fries is not a meal.
No, no. What I would love to see is the vegetation of a well-rooted structure of we'll use the example of a cherry tree, but not meaning cherry tree. But if you were to give it one loop, that the loop could freely move or tension could be increased off of the structure closest to, you love the word limbics, but the forced center of the bottom.
Here, I didn't know I got my tips for work.
Oh wow! Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sweet. That's cool. Cool. All I would do is I would use the beautiful clothespin knot and pull up pressure while it's growing. Stepping up, a clothespin knot goes like a moose knuckle. So you have the knuckles touching, then the next day you separate the knuckle. You have two knuckles, one going each way. Or you loop it, loop the tree. But if you were to moose knuckle it and you have them parallel with each other, and you were pulling up in a fashion or sideways, two sides pulling against each other to stretch, like that of going cross-eyed, you would stretch it opposite of the way of growth, and then you would unparallel it to get a ratio pull from the bottom, creating the mass weight, we'll call it rubber or tear ducts, to pull it up to make it sap better. Or this tree can't luminescence proper. It's having an issue. It can't do. So you would have to wring it out like a fucking cloth. And then you would have to let the stretchy cortex, you would have to stretch it in order for it to fill adequately without bursting or without retaining pressure. You would want to reverse it so that the rubber is on the outside because the tree is growing incidentally in reverse. The only way to do that would be to, we'll say, force a node or a tear out of it, bleed it like you would brakes. You have a hardwood which would have a snapping integrity. It can hold this many pounds of pressure and make that sound of a soul cry. You have something that's unable to break. It's in the most pain. If it was a snake, it would literally start growing back. If you had a rubber snake, it would literally be in so much pain. It would be trying to fold itself inside out. Do they even fucking shed rubber snakes? Can they shed? I have no fucking clue. But without a massage technique, like humans need chi, or touching to do this. This should only have to be done, particularly prior to growth season. Um, Here's some warm water. This is hypothetical. It's just to make an inquiry on thought. Um, the best suitable time to pull something when you know it has the ability to stretch versus something that can't stretch. Something that is string won't stretch. It'll just break or cut your hands open. Other things have the ability to actually stretch. When you salt and sugar meat, it will break down the fibers and then it will insert along the fibers a string. So to twist a rubber tree and pull it, you know that in relation, it wants to molt from the inside, but it just can't. You would want that tree to look like a snake moving as fast as it can in a screenshot, so it's like giant S's. If anything, compressed down to the earth, just to get that extra bend in those corners. In growth season, fucking cut the bands. Let it tree again. It needs to be weaved in certain seasons. Ratcheted down. So that it can environment. Because right now I can't hear you, it's in so much pain. What gamma color do you think it's shooting out? When I remember being up, the color imprint on my mind was that of pink yellow. That's the colors that it's like having a headache and wanting to die, but no headache, but being dead. All you're seeing is yellow pink. And it's pleasant. It's not bad. It's the best thing that's ever happened to you in a long time. Maybe you should just gently in a cold season heat the tree on the inside of the bends. Let it get malleable. What does the weather go like when it's cold? What happens to the molecular rate inside of it? You guys will only cover a fucking banana tree in a rainforest for cosmetic purposes, not for what it's going to produce. But now you have something that's crying to die and you won't shoot it in the head or do anything about it. It's a living fucking thing. And it looks like the most obese, sick as fuck with swollen cankles I've ever seen. Have you seen the trees that are literally jumping out of the ground? Like, if that tree was brought here from something with a different kind of gravity, if you're not going to do something about it, if you physically brought it here, take it away from here or do something about it. Please. It doesn't belong here. unless you have a suitable environment for it. You're just torturing it. You've literally made a zoo for a tree and a rubber snake. Snakes have fangs that pop out and can handle tug pressure for a reason. Do you think you could help that snake reprieve by cracking its back a little bit? Do snakes get cerebral fluid to their brain to cleanse their brain from moments of wanting to die? They can dislocate their jaw, but they can't tuck their head down. So much so Amora has had to adapt into a fucking owl. Lizards' eyes, when oiding, they're looking forward because they want to walk on 2 feet. But they can't see what's in front of them. Seriously. This is happening. Have you ever put one in a mirrored hallway and then try tapering the mirror towards its head or away from its body to let it look backwards? You should have it in an open hallway. So it's starting at the corner and walking away from itself. I don't even think I've ever seen a fucking gecko do that. For an echo to go cross-eyed, it would have to look backwards at the back of its head. It can't do it. A 3-part symbol has the foundation of a color sequence of no, but needing to be a yes. If you look at that in a helix of blood, the first thing that is different probably needs to get turned to a degree where it would touch the top of the helix and then bottom down after a full rotation over. Even though you don't think rotation matters, the right side of the helix would have to flip up to the adjacent side, and then it would have to angle down to the first parchment of color that is not identical to the last 3. A helix is derived of a 7th part. So if it's 2 or 3, you have to have the angle there for it to tear down and go lateral the other way. For it to be, if you have the ability to change cellular malleability for morality, to get rid of the bad rep of a beast because of a chemical or embodied disposition, when something that sounds so fucking easy And I bet you it is even easier than I make it sound. Like, seriously. An apple tree can do it. But you can't engineer it in a test tube. You would be the COVID disease at this point to me. Try it with an albino's hair or something. Or a little bit of acetate. I don't care. It's got to be able to bleed in. Probably something soluble. What's more soluble than water besides uppull? And a little bit of heat. If you're doing this, I would say you have to adjust the temperature flow. On an equation of two body types that are different under the same atmosphere, but unable to control it. One can shiver and one can't. That's the only thing that makes me different from Amora. That and she can't see how her ponytail would look. You should literally have Mir set up with a pi symbol on the back of her head. And let her adjust her own mirrors at this point. It's the opposite of cruel and endangering punishment. Or just knowing how something would feel. Right there. When this eye goes that way and one goes up a little bit and over, there's a giant light right there. It's an invisible doorway. The tension pulled in the right way from a little bit of an eye movement with a whole lot of theory behind it. Can pull a tree, can pull a fang to stretch a neck, and a little bit of a Sharpie pen on somebody's skin could join together all the binaurals of that of a waking dream. Even you can magic eye, so why don't you let them know? Have you ever taken a lily pad and tied underneath the pad of the lily and then drain the water out every day up to the root system and then fed it on a flood and drain system? Keeping the roots submerged, but not the stem. They literally grow out of the water. If it wants to release CO2 at nighttime, Why are you stopping it? Why aren't you grabbing that walking tree by the roots and pulling them down? At least let it pollen properly. Quit cutting the branches and putting them in a vase. Or however the fuck you do it, it's wrong. Plus than, greater than, staggered with a plus and minus sign. But the minus sign is backwards. It should look like a fucking L. And it should go perfect to the same part of the pointillism. So every half rotation it will touch. Helix. A positive and greater than or less than sign. Where the tail goes to a plus, or a tail just goes to a stop. Every half rotation it would touch. And it would create an eighth. Then that one foiled color would be ready to get shed away with all of its pain and suffering. Think about it. The plus and the greater than and less than are the sides of the helix, the membrane wall, or whatever the fuck. The turning part, not the straight lines. There are two cyclones. They're meeting in your visual cortex or on your touch. Let me see now. It's my turn. As soon as I touch it, it'll change. Maybe hand to foot, hand to foot. Hand to foot, hand to foot. Do 2 rings of that and flip it upside down and just touch heads. Without pulling. Just touch foreheads, like, or nose kiss. Without pulling. But just try staggering yourself so your bodies are laying the same way, but then staggering yourselves. Like a fucking mandala shape, but in a line. And then repeating that, like on equilibrium with that fucking faggot. Leonardo DiCaprio. And then just touch a couple heads that have a picture or an icon with abundance ready to go, holding it, ready to share it. But not sharing it until you can find that sweet spot by looking at somebody. Okay, you need to move over to the right. I just saw something there. Keep moving. Keep moving. Okay, now stop and look what I'm doing with my fucking eyes. If you can do that. or figure it out on your own based off you being a mirrored image of me. Only one eye is moved. Yours will be the opposite one. You should be able to make a hard bracket out of a mirror and stand side by side, looking away from each other and focusing on the same point to get the same reprieve out of the other eye. Just by tilting your head back. There might be 4 of them. I gotta go get Listerine. You guys have got work to do.